Hi, everybody. Ted Haggard here from St. James Church in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'm dressed this way because I'm taking a crew ATVing later this morning. It's our first chilly, rainy morning in Colorado Springs. Last week, I was up in the higher country with my truck, and it was snowing and sleeting. And so anyway, we who live here in Colorado, or at least some of us, at least most of us, really love the variety of weather. It's really exciting. Anyway, this morning we are in Luke, the 23rd chapter, verses 1 through 12. It's Jesus's trial before Pilate. And what I want to talk to you about from this morning is power. And all of us watch what goes on in families. You can tell if there's a structure and mutual respect in a family by the way they communicate with one another. And you can tell if the leaders of the family or the parents are powerless, because powerless people scream and yell and threaten and do things like that. We're watching right now. Washington goes through power struggles. Money is power, of course. And so those who like to raise taxes and accumulate more money for government entities, they want power taken away from people and more power in government. Those who lower taxes want to lessen the power of government and put more power into the hands of people. Thus, those that are against the law and order, they want to defund the police. Those that are for law and order, we want good legislators to write good laws. We want district attorneys to enforce those laws. And we want police officers to be able to enforce those laws. And so you can see how people view power by how they operate in their home, how they operate their business or their finances. And you can see people who are rebellious against power. Rebellious people can't keep a job consistently because they are rebellious and they are powerless typically. And the only way they can exert their power is through rebellion. And so they rebel and they think they're tough and that they know so much. And they end up very often either needing a union or needing to move on. And so power is a big issue, and that's what Jesus was threatening. Now, the Sanhedrin was very interested in protecting their wealth, in protecting their comfort, and protecting their power. Does that sound familiar? And so very often when I watch what's going on right now for the first time with the FBI and our Department of Justice, I see them wanting to protect their wealth, their comfort, and their power for the first time, rather than just seeking justice and wanting to enforce the law. So this thing that goes on in Luke 23 goes on all throughout history. It goes on in every family. It goes on in every city. The difference between a communist country and a country like ours is a communist country has centralized power. So the people are just instruments of the government's power. Our Constitution was written specifically for the purpose of minimizing the power of the government and maximizing the power of individual citizens. And you can always tell a Supreme Court justice that does not understand that. If a Supreme Court justice politically wants more power for the federal government, then they interpret the Constitution that way. If a federal justice, like right now, the Biden administration, they philosophically believe in all the solutions are government solutions. And so they will appoint people that believe that, and they're calling the people who are interpreting the Constitution as a constitution to protect people and keep power as close to the people as possible and minimize the government's power. Our current administration is calling those guys extremists because they want to keep power in the hands of people. So the Sanhedrin here wants to protect their wealth, their comfort, and their power. All right. And so they come up when they're by themselves. They say Jesus blasphemes, that he calls himself the Son of God. But they're very wise when they go before Pilate, because Pilate is the one, he's the Roman governor. Pilate is the one that has the power to crucify Jesus. All right. So when they go before before Pilate, they say he creates seditious agitation, that he's a revolutionary, that he doesn't want people to pay taxes to Rome, that he calls himself a king. See, all those are threatening, or they're trying to make Jesus threatening toward Pilate. So when they say he's an agitator, or he doesn't want to pay taxes, hello, do you hear these arguments today? Or he's calling himself a king and all that. So when you see a federal official saying these are agitators, they don't say that about people that want the federal government to have more power. They say that about people that want citizens to have more power. And so this power struggle goes on. The other night, I received a call from a fella at 3:30 in the morning, and I could hear the lady he lives with, they're not married, screaming at him, just letting him have it. Well, why would a person scream that way at another person? And this is a nice guy that she was doing this with. It's because she was feeling powerless. She was feeling threatened. And what he'd done is he'd said something nice to a woman in their apartment complex. He's a young guy. He's well-trained, and his mother's taught him to have good manners. So he said something kind, and it triggered her jealousy. And so she was enraged, but she was powerless. See, I jokingly say sometimes powerless people go in the streets and say obscene things and do obscene things. Powerless people, the African-American community, felt as though peaceful protests back this last summer, peaceful protests were too powerless. So they started burning businesses and stealing and started looting and some things like that. Well, then we as a society have to decide what we're going to do about that. So we have to understand how power works. So when you give money to a church, you're empowering a church. When you give money to such and such a business, you are empowering that business. When you keep your money for yourself, you're accumulating power for yourself. And so same with your health. And so if you use your intellectual strength for one thing, that adds strength to that entity. If you use your intellectual strength for something else, that's different. There's lots of kind of power. There's brute force. There's knowledge and information. There's chain of command power. There's representation power if you represent a lot of people and that kind of thing. Okay, let's get to this and let's study this right quick. Chapter 23, beginning with verse 1, I read out of the New Living Translation. Then the entire council took Jesus to Pilate. And as I said, that was so that they could get him crucified, the Roman governor. They began to state their case. This man has been leading our people astray by telling them not to pay their taxes to the Roman government. That's a lie. Okay, now no, when power is the question, people will lie. All right. So I've had people jealous of me in past years, and they'll lie to try to disempower me. Okay. Facebook tries to disempower certain political positions by not letting them be on their platform. All right. And so does Twitter. And so that's all power. It's all about power and where power should go. All right. And that's why freedom of speech is such a threat to these guys. And it's very interesting. The press wants freedom of the press for themselves. They don't want anybody else to be free. They want everybody else to be accountable except them. And so what's that all about? Oh, it's about power. And so anyway, they told Pilate, Jesus was saying that he was telling people not to pay taxes to the Roman government, and by claiming he's a king, the Messiah, a king. All right, so here he's threatened. They're trying to get Pilate to feel threatened. So Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus replied, "Well, you're the one that said that, not me." And this is the brilliance of Christ. Pilate turned to the leading priests in the crowd and said, I find nothing wrong with this man. Pilate knows. Pilate is a power player. He knows these guys are liars. He knows these guys. Don't you wish we could just be a little more honest with one another and say that guy's a liar. He is not telling the truth, but that one's trustworthy. By the way, that's why our founding fathers wanted power in the local communities, because here in our local communities, we do know one another. And so here in verse 5, then they became insistent, but he's causing riots by the teaching wherever he goes, all over Judea, from Galilee to Jerusalem. Well, that is not true either. That's another lie. But from their point of view, since crowds came to hear him and sick people came to get well, then there was a little bit of disturbance from their point of view. Oh, he's a Galilean, Pilate asked. Then they said, when they said what he was, Pilate sent him to Herod Antipas, because Galilee was under Herod's jurisdiction, and Herod happened to be in Jerusalem at the time. So those of you that have been to Israel with me or are going in the future with me, you've seen Herod's palace. You've seen all that up by Galilee, and you know the power that was there. But these guys had not been friends. So when Pilate found out that Herod was there, he decided to show him some respect. Why? Because if powerful people are friends, they're more powerful. All right. And so Herod was delighted at the opportunity to see Jesus. Now, why was Herod delighted? Well, he kind of saw him as a spectacle. Herod was arrogant, high-minded, a power guy. He was brutal, and he saw Jesus as a joke, as a flash in the pan, as a spectacle, somebody that was not important, but somebody to be toyed with. Sound familiar? All right. So because he had heard about him and been hoping for a long time to see him perform a miracle, he asked Jesus question after question. Jesus didn't even answer him. Why didn't Jesus even answer him? It's because Herod was, Herod was a waste, this Herod Antipas, in Jesus's point of view. Meanwhile, the leading priests and the teachers of religious law stood there shouting their accusations. How do we do that nowadays? Social media and the press. If we can get the news to cover, so we shout accusations. And simply by shouting accusations in the newspaper and the press gives accusations credibility in people's minds that are unable to think. And so here they shouted their accusations. Then Herod and his soldiers began mocking and ridiculing Jesus. Sound familiar? Finally, they put a royal robe on him, sent him back to Pilate. Herod and Pilate, who'd been enemies, became friends that day. Hey, everybody, everything we all do, everything anybody does is for one of 5 reasons, a combination of these 5 reasons: survival, love, and belonging. Love and belonging go together. Freedom, fun, or power. So some fellas are with their wives for power. They want to control them. Other fellas are with their wives for love and belonging. Other fellas for love and belonging and fun. They really enjoy their wives and their families. And so figure out what's going on around you. When you see a congressman or a senator speaking, figure out what's going on with them. When you see yourself doing something, figure out what's going on with you. Remember, it's a combination or one of these 5: survival, love and belonging, freedom, fun, or power. Sometimes when you see an adolescent boy or a girl saying something, it's just because they want power. Other times it's because they want to go have fun. Other times it's because they want more freedom. You as a parent have to figure that out. Okay, that's enough for today. Hey, God bless you. Have a great week, and see you next week. Bye-bye.